For looks like these, I like to often start out with a sketch just so I kind of know where I'm going to be going with the look and it gives me a better guideline of where to lay down the colors. For this, I'm just using NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk, which is their white color, and I just find this the easiest one to use because it's simple to correct if I make any mistakes. Then from there, I started laying down Sally's skin tone. The first time I did this, I went for more of a teal base, but for my second attempt, I wanted to get a little bit more accurate to the movie model, which is kind of more of a light blue. And so for this color, I was using Mehron's Paradise Paint in light blue and just kind of apply this all over the face and neck, already kind of lay out where I'm going to be cutting out the neckline so it makes a better clothing illusion later on. Then any areas that I thought could use a little bit more coverage, I just went back over for a second layer. And then when I thought I had at least a decent base, I went ahead and followed with a cream white. This is Mehron's Clown White Lite, which I like because it's very easy for blending. And just with a fluffy or dense sponge, I went ahead and just patted this to all the areas of my face that are kind of the high points and blended it into the blue. This both will help bring focus to the center of the face through, normal highlighting and also create a little bit more of that super, super pale blue that she kind of has for her skin tone. After this step, you do just want to powder it down with a translucent setting powder. Because it's cream, it will kind of shift on you if you don't. But after setting, then I went ahead and kind of started bringing in a little bit of a nod to that original teal that I did years ago when I first did Sally for her skin tone. So I took a teal eyeshadow and used this to kind of help contour and bring a little bit more definition to the face. So I went around the outside, kind of helped enhance the cheekbones a little bit, even though she has a very rounded face, because I'm not going for a full illusion makeup in that regard of trying to completely change my face shape. I still want to work with what I have as my base. For the eyes, I definitely wanted to reference Sally's nice big round eyes, but I wanted to work within my own eye shape, so I started by really defining the crease and building up from there. I started with my lighter blues and then kept getting deeper and deeper until I had a really nice dark blue right along my crease. This does also help that my crease is pretty rounded, so it might be different depending on your eye shape. But I like the way that this would look when my eye was open or closed. And then I also added a little bit of white liner to the bottom waterline. I do have to go back and fix this later on because I realized my lashes are too long on the bottom and they kind of ruined any type of big eye illusion, so I had to expand the shape a little bit. But by having the white applied to the bottom waterline and just underneath the lash line, I then had a guide to apply more of the shadow underneath to help define it. Then for the top of the eyes, I just finished them off by doing a little bit of a cut crease technique with an actual cut crease, because I took a little bit of concealer and just made sure that line was really defined. Again, just trying to push that idea of a more rounded eye. And then once I had the concealer down, I patted on a light blue shimmer color I have. It's actually a highlight color. And this gave me that little bit of reflect to bring more light into the eye, but also keep it pretty contrasted with the dark blue crease I had already made. And then I just blended out the edges into the blue tones. The liner I kept pretty simple, just went for a bold wing, but tried to keep it a little bit shorter since, again, this whole idea of roundness. I like a really long cat eye normally, but I tried to rein myself in on this one. So just enough to give a little bit of an animated definition to the eyes, and then I moved on to basing out where her stitches will go. To help give the lines a little bit more definition and depth, I just like how it looks to take a little bit of that darker blue tealy color I was using, and I just buffed this in kind of along all of the lines. I thought this kind of helped with the illusion of depth as if they were sinking inwards, and then to help boost that even further, once I had all of the shadow down, I went ahead and took the same blue aqua color I had used for my skin tone and applied it to one edge of the stitches. The reason I only did it to one side is because I kind of wanted to hint as if light was casting down on the stitch lines and they would only catch on one side. So again, just trying to make it so they're a little bit more three-dimensional than just a flat black line. The easiest method I have found for stitches is to lay down all of the dots first and then go over it with the color of your stitches and kind of interlock them into those little holes you've created. The reason this tends to be easier is because you don't have to fight with trying to create a circle around the edge of the stitch when you're done, and you can move pretty quickly. The only thing you want to do while you're laying down the dots is to kind of count and make sure that you have enough for all of the stitches to go into. But then from there, you can take whatever color you want. For this Sally, I decided to take a silver. It's kind of a cheat because silver paints reflect, so they'll create their own depth as you move. But it's a nice easy one to kind of quickly do them all across her face and chest. To finish up the eyes, I just threw on a pair of lashes on my upper lid and then drew on some more animated ones along the bottom. You also could apply false lashes to the bottom line. I just thought this was a little bit quicker and easier. Then moving on to Sally's outfit, what I wanted to do was block out all of the colors first. This is one area that I thought I definitely improved from my last Sally, in that I think these are a little bit more accurate to her design. So more of like a dusty rose, a like Dijon mustard kind of yellow, and then using just like more muted kind of, I guess, authentic tones. This might actually be my favorite part of the look, and that is cutting out the neckline to create the illusion that the fabric is actually folding over the back of the neck. So to do this, it is just take some black paint and go over the shape of your new skinnier neck, I guess, and then pulling it along the shape of where the fabric would sit up and around the shoulders. This obviously works best with a black background, as you can see against my chair, but even at the end when I have the wig on, which would kind of counteract it, it kind of just ends up looking like a shadow. So it tends to work even if you don't have a conveniently placed black background behind you. From here, I wanted to just start building up the shading along the fabric to hopefully help it look more like fabric. And so to do that, I just use darker shades of the color I'm usually working in. So for instance, on the like mustardy yellow side, I used a lot of browns and maybe a little bit of black where needed. And then on the pink side, I was using kind of more dusty, dark rose colors, as well as maybe a little bit of gray or black, again, just kind of where needed if there's areas that need to be a little bit deeper or darker. And from there, it's kind of just playing around with different shapes and admittedly having to readjust sometimes. There was a few that I had to erase and redo, but a lot of fabric folds are just about really soft blending and kind of seeing if you can get them in the direction they would naturally crease if they were like actually on your body. Then the next trick I attempted for helping the illusion along was that her outfit has a seam line along the shoulders, as well as connecting the shoulder pieces to the arms. But by doing the line work and the little stitching along what would be the top part of your shoulders, it kind of helps the illusion that this fabric is actually sitting up and away from the body so that you actually are catching a glimpse of those seam lines. So I drew those in and then went ahead and also added all of the little swirls and shading on the pink section of her dress. This I kind of just made up. I was looking at her designs, but I kind of went off and just did what I could with following the lines because it gets a little tricky to make perfect swirls over and over again. Then for the yellow sleeve, I followed a lot of the similar shading I had done for the other sections, but I did just create the stripes that are on it with a little bit of brown shadow and then a brown aqua color. And then taking some darker brown shadows, I just added those little bit of shading to hopefully make it look more like fabric and just better defined it with a little bit of black. Admittedly, the green sleeve was pretty simple. I just basically added a bit of shading so it would match everything else and just kept it green. But after adding that little bit of shading, I then just finished up the seam lines between the sleeves to make sure they match and are on both sides and all looking good. And then I went ahead and just added a little bit of shading around where the clothing would be sitting up off of, the neck and chest area. This again, just to try and create a little bit more depth, because if it was sitting up, it would cast a little bit of a shadow, nothing too crazy, but enough so that it looks, hopefully, a little bit more three-dimensional. One of the final steps was to, of course, actually give her arms, because I'd kind of ignored it until now. And the main reason for that is that I do want to create a little bit of a skinnier arm, since they are notorious in Night Before Christmas for having the elongated limbs. The one tricky thing about the arms is that you can't quite do the same thing that you would do on the neck. And that is because your arm twists and moves a lot more. So if you make it really thin, it will only work in one angle. So what I tried to do was find kind of a happy medium. Do enough of a cut so that the sleeves look like they're sitting well off of the arms and that the arms look a little bit skinnier, but also make sure that it can read if I move too much, especially for pictures and stuff like that. So that was kind of what I was trying to find, is a happy medium. And then from there, it's just a little bit of that extra shading we've already been doing to make sure the sleeves look a little bit more dimensional. And again, just casting that shadow. It's all about shadow and light, really. It's like this whole paint. Last steps were, of course, to throw on a red wig and her iconic red lip. For this, I used two different shades, just a darker red on the outside to kind of have it be a little bit more dimensional than a flat red. And that was it for my Sally makeup. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a look that I did 3 years ago. It was actually the first makeup I had ever done on Twitch, and I'm really happy to have redone it because I feel like I can see a vast improvement from where I started and where I'm at now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Glad I could also bring you a tutorial for it since I definitely didn't have one for the first. I would love to hear your comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I will have everything I use listed in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I, of course, will see you next video. So until then, bye guys.